has a long date.
Yeah. Okay, and okay, I was going to say, and Chris and Ben is going to join us from across the pond. I expect we should be joined by him shortly, but let's get it and welcome us, I guess. Okay, we'll start by having the public hearing regarding the establishment of a city property tax rate to be forwarded to the county auditor. Public, what say ye? Nothing. Okay, and welcome, Ben.
Thank you.
There being no public comment, we can close the public hearing portion of the meeting and move on to the work session. On that same topic, discussion of setting a city property tax rate to be forwarded to the county auditor. Chris, take it away.
Thank you. I'm going to share screen here as soon as I can find the right screen to share. Let's see. Is the tax rate? Can you see my mouse moving okay?
Yep.
Great. Okay, so kudos to the county and the state. They got us our tax rates. They thought they'd get it.
Myself, I can't see it moving now, so.
Oh, I just, this sheet we're going to just talk about here. So we'll fill in some data and numbers.
Okay.
You see is it yellow now right here?
Yeah, it's
Okay. Okay. So kudos to the state and the county. They got us our tax rates a little earlier than anticipated, which is perfect for our meeting today. So just by way of previous history on tax rates for the past couple of years, in 2024, the state proposed a 0.00321, which equated out to about $984,000, and the council accepted the state rate. The previous 5 years before that, and possibly further back, the state proposed a rate and the council decided to choose a different rate at that time. Most of the time, actually all the times, they were a little bit higher. So as you can see, I won't go through all these rates, but you can see the rates that were proposed by the state, the dollar amounts the state was going to provide us, the rate that the council decided on, and the dollar amounts that were given to the
2019. Ouch.
Yeah, that was a good little jump there. Now, since then, we've probably had, and Jody, you have to help me here, what, 30, 50 homes since 2019, maybe
I know.
more.
Sorry.
So,
Go ahead, Chris.
okay. So that's where we are with the tax rates from history. This current year, the state is proposing a 0.003093, which is less than the 0.003321 from last year. So, but the rate that they're proposing is estimated to bring in just over $1 million, where last year it brought in about 983,000. Now it's been talked about in this meeting and outside meetings that maybe we want to look at keeping the rate level from last year, meaning keeping the rate at 0.003321. 0.003321. What will that get us if we kept it level? So it get us, instead of $1,012,000, it get us $1,087,000. If we keep the rate level from this year to last year, it's about a 7% increase. Even though we keep the rate level, people will pay still more in property taxes for the city portion. I'd like to jump over to my spreadsheet again here real quick and took a random sampling of various homes throughout the community. I tried getting some larger homes, some smaller homes, some newer homes, some older homes to come up with some, so the council can see what this would do to citizens. So right now you can see the home property valuations that I'm choosing are over here. Once again, this is the assessed value, not the full value of the property. So the county has already taken off the deduction for it being their primary residence. So you can see the property at $337,000, home one for Nebo School District and charter school taxes. They paid 2,500. The city's portion is 1,100. The county portion is 257, and then special districts. This is CUP and or Central Utah Water Conservancy District and something called Assessing and Collecting Dash State. I'm not quite sure what that is. So this particular home last year paid taxes of just over $4,000. Of that, the city was $1,100. So you can kind of go through and see how this has affected people for the last year with the property tax were. Now, if we take this year and accept the state proposed tax rate, I'm just using level numbers here. So let's just say it's the same rate as last year because that's what's supposed to happen. But then if the city decides to keep the rate level, or that's about that 7% increase, this person would go from $1,122 to $1,204. If we did level and 5% increase or 10% increase or 15% increase or 20% increase, that's how that particular home would work out. So I hope that gives you.
Chris, so you're saying it's hard for us to kind of read this. It's really little on the screen, but yeah, that's much better. So you're
Sorry about
saying
that.
we keep it the same as last year. It goes up by not quite $100.
Six,
For this one particular home.
that one is
Uh,
6.
Yeah, these larger homes, they'll feel it more. I do know because of the tax rate, the truth and taxation hearing we're going to have in August. We wanted to have it on a specific date, but the county said no because Nebo School District is having a truth and taxation hearing also. So there's a chance they're looking at their rates at this time. But once again, we can only deal with the city portion in this meeting. So that's all I've dealt with.
When the school district is upping theirs,
Yeah.
And do we know what others are raising their tax rates to, or?
So there was one other meeting and I don't remember which one it was. It seems like it might have been the Water Conservancy District. There was another Tuesday night we couldn't get.
Are you talking other cities or are you
Well, no,
talking
I wonder
the other
how
portions of
will-
our tax?
How will our citizens be affected by these other taxes, not just our city? I mean, do we know if they're going up, or are they cutting them in half, or what are they doing?
Well, if they're doing a truth and taxation, my assumption would be they're at
Gonna
least
go up.
going
School
up.
considering
district's
going up, yeah.
Yeah, school district
Okay.
always goes up.
Okay, that
They never
always,
go down.
that adds to the pain, is my thought.
This is
Yeah.
my least favorite part of the job.
Yeah.
Yep.
What does the finance group say?
They didn't meet again.
Well, they have talked about the incremental as well.
They don't want, they have talked about it, and what they discussed is they don't want to raise taxes on the citizens, but they are concerned that if we don't raise it a little bit, then we're going to be in that same situation that David Pratt talks about. That was his reelection year when they had to raise them huge, and the finance committee doesn't want to do that to families. They feel like
This
it was
was-
better to do a small incremental increase, just a teeny one, just to keep up with costs. I guess. Yeah,
Ted, we speak into the mic? One of them anyway.
Mike?
Oh, that's the broken mic.
Yeah.
take this.
We should always give Ted the broken one.
Right.
No, it squeals in our ears though. Thanks, Doral.
Curious, so in the finances committee comment, when they were talking incremental increase, were they talking in dollars or tax rate? Because if the tax rate's level, the dollars still go up, right?
Yeah.
So are they meaning dollars or tax rate as far as an increase?
I don't know that they specified, probably just in what the citizens pay, so in dollars.
Which would be the dollars.
They just, and it comes back to the roads. The finance committee really wants to make sure that we have the funds to take care of our roads because we've neglected them so long. And so they do want to make sure that there's enough in there for us to be able to do the roads. So the question is, how do we pay for the roads at, a year or two from now if we're drained? we're draining our savings. And I felt like that other discussion got off a little bit because everyone was so focused on, well, we don't want a ton of money in our savings. And that wasn't the point of the comment. The point of the comment was, it's fine if we pull a little bit out every year and to supplement, but if we have to drain a lot of it and then the next year we need some and we don't have it, that's the problem. So it's not that we want money sitting in savings and taxing the citizens. It's that we want to be able to do the roads. We want to make sure that we have enough money in there to be able to fix our roads.
And Chris has developed a number of scenarios that look at the various, like if we adopt what the county proposes versus if we keep it level from last year versus if we kick it up to some of these other hypotheticals, and what it would look like in combination, keeping a certain amount in savings or draining the savings. So I think that those questions, and then we can have some real numbers to consider, like, okay, and then in combination, I think with, you know, what Public Works and fire and the city offices and so forth need, I think that we can make an informed decision, but we do have some scenarios that will give us at least some real numbers in a specific
Yeah, because
context.
that's what I was just going to ask about. So.
And that's what
We're going to talk
Yeah,
about that here in a minute. Okay.
That's coming up. That's just a teaser.
Okay.
Perfect. That's what I'd love to see is
Yeah.
just, I just want to see that, you know, if we keep it level, the rate level of what it was this year, so it is a slight increase. I'm okay with that if we have a plan of how we can pay for the roads.
And if we want to jump into that now, I know Ted's
That
got some things
Matters
that
for me.
Yeah, so does anybody have any questions about this first? That we want to,
Real easy one. If we, Chris, if we use the state rate like we did last year, would people pay more taxes to the city? Or,
it's supposed
Say-
to keep it level. So it
Okay.
should be very, very close. And that's what I've done. I've just transposed the last year's rates. to
Okay.
Figuring that out. It's close.
okay.
and oddly, which I don't really know that I understand, we still get, even if we take the state's proposed
Right.
rate,
We
we
still get
still go up
more.
about 30,000, right, Chris, from last year's
Yes.
revenue? And I'm not
We've
sure
got
where that comes from, but should,
properties and homes now that they're paying the full amount that have closed with the county. I mean,
okay, so yeah, I mean, even if we adopt and don't do any increase of any sort, there is some added revenues
Okay.
from last year, but whether or not.
yeah, so we're at 983,000 collected this year. Next year's 1,012,000. So, you know, you got about $40,000-ish
Yeah.
difference.
And then if we keep it the rate as of last year, then we get 1,087,000 basically.
So we'd have
Correct.
dollars
Mm-hmm.
of surplus, so to speak.
Or just maybe not taking as much out of, because I think last year we took quite a bit out of savings, if I remember. And so this would help eliminate that.
Well, and if we keep it at what it was last year, again, these are a couple of scenarios that we'll be looking at. One of them is we continue, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Chris, we continue to put some money in those PTIF accounts.
Yes.
But then there's also a scenario that Chris is going to go through where we utilize that money and see where that gets us financially. And it drains savings, but to Doral's point, last meeting, maybe we shouldn't have at least not excessive savings. So anyway, I think we'll get there.
Yeah, well, like I say, I don't think any of us want excessive savings. We just want some.
Yeah.
We
And
just
we have to be
need
care-
some.
We have to be careful in the general account of how much money we save. The water account is an enterprise account. The sewer account is an enterprise account, meaning we can save, we can charge our rates, we can do whatever is necessary in those accounts. So once again, everything we're talking about here is only the general account.
So sometime tonight, I'm going to ask the opinion of the city employees as well. So just be ready.
He looks like he's ready with an answer. More.
Well, we
This
all
is-
are.
This is we're not jumping to number 7 right away.
I don't know if Chris is ready for me to talk numbers yet on the roads, but whatever.
Chris, what I would suggest is let's go through kind of the scenarios that we talk about, and then we can talk specifics on how it would impact this.
I think I'm going to add to his conversation.
Yeah, he's actually the main runner of that conversation, Mayor, if you could get in there. So the thought was, is we've got the pavement management plan, we've got fire, we've got police, we've got all these different pots of money that need to be expended. But the biggest one is with what Ted has there. And so we can look at these rates like, if we collect $1,012,000 versus $1,087,000, but yet we have a $1.5 million project coming up in 2 years. Are we on trajectory to be able to fulfill that project, or do we need to divide that project in half and make the pavement management plan 8 or 9 years instead of 7 years?
Let's do this then. So let's start by looking at the numbers. If we adopt the county's proposed rate and keep our savings as they are, and keeping them funded as we currently are. And then let's look at that and see what that does to our public works. And then we can take it to option 2, which is to keep the state, or to adopt the county's proposed rate and utilize our savings further to city expenses. And then from there, we can look at some of the other scenarios. Does that sound good to you, Chris? Everybody here? Okay.
I'm just pulling up one more screen here that I want to share so we can get some real time. We're just going to be getting right into the guts of the budget. And I apologize, Carrie, and you guys, this is as big as I can do this screen here. So you can get your magnifying glasses on. But this is the proposed 2026 budget that was proposed back about 4 or 6 weeks ago. We had 970,000 as a proposal for property taxes. And now we already know it's going to go up to 1,012,000. So right now that puts us at $42,000 ahead. That still gets us, I'm going to scroll down here to roads. Because roads is the biggest one. So if we go down to roads, in the roads budget, we still have nearly $800,000 for road repairs next year. And that does not include taking money out of, so the money we're not going to expend this year because the pavement management plan had to be put on hold till August. So we're going to need to we're going to need to move from this year's budget about $600,000, put it in capital projects before June 30th. And then by August, we're going to pull it back so the pavement management plan can be done. So this coming up budget year, we're going to be able to do $1.2 to $1.4 million worth of repairs on the pavement management plan anyways. So we're going to get a good kick this fall.
But that doesn't get us where we need to be entirely, right? I mean, I think that's what you're getting at,
So-
Janet, is that we want to be able to not just fund this upcoming year, but all future years too.
Yeah, maybe you want me to interject thoughts on
Please.
so this year was money Chris talked about. The money we were going to spend this year is going to get put into a savings or whatever, and then pulled back out because the project got delayed till August. And that's $500,000, $525,000. Next year's projects are about 500 and what was that? So next year, we'll just say 565,000, unless we add kind of replacement of a water line in that portion of it. But let's just say talk roads for now. So next year, the road projects we have planned is about $565,000. So in short, we'll have 800 something thousand in the budget to spend. We'll spend 565 of that. So we'll roughly have 300,000 left over to roll to the next year. Now that's when we start to get into the big projects. So say now we're 2027. And this is where it's a little bit convoluted because there's once we finish these two projects, this one in August and then one next year, that's about $1 million worth of road work. We've got about $2.8 million of road work left to do. However, about 1 million of that, 1.1 million of that would be tied to water projects if we do water lines. For example, Maple Drive, terrible road, terrible water line. You don't want to do the road and then come back later and do a water line project, right? So I would suggest that the timing of that road would tie to the timing of the water line. So we'd have to look for a water line project in our water account or get some funding to do the project. If we get funding to do the water projects, we'll do the roads with the water projects. That reduces the road cost by $1 million, 1.1 million. So now the remaining roads after 2026 are roughly $1.8 million of road work to do outside of what would be tied to a water line project. So if we carry over, and the plan is to do that in the
Is that going to
remaining-
get us to 100? I mean, obviously there's.
That'll have all the roads done,
Okay.
except
The end of
the
2020.
water project roads,
Oh, except for those.
except for the water project roads, because those we would tie the road work to the water line, like we did with the other water project, right? When we replaced the water line, we redid the road. We do the same thing, make that part of the water project.
How many water lines, roads do we have to replace besides Maple?
So,
I mean, we did have 3 phases, so I'm just trying to wrap that around as we're talking about what part is going to be roads, which part is going to be water, which part is going to be combined. In our narrative, the
so
other.
the water projects
Mhm.
are Skylake, Highline, Homestead, Settlement, sorry, yes. Maple, Mountain Vale.
Oh, good chunk.
Those are the roads, basically this side of the street, right? Highline, Skylake, Mountain Vale, most of Maple, part of it's been done. East Lakeview, East Valley View. Those are the water projects we have now. We've actually got about $6 million worth of water line projects to do, $5.7 million. But that includes the road work with them. So $1 million of that's roads. So the 1.8 million I'm talking about gets everything done in the city road wise, except for those specific roads that we have to replace the water line and those ones I just mentioned. So if we, and then the plan is in the pavement management plan, we want to complete that remaining 1.8 million in about 6 to 7 years so that we're on a 10-year cycle, right? So by the time we finish the last remaining road in the city to do, we start over again with the roads we are doing this year. So if we say 6 years roughly, and we have 1.8 million to do, that's what, 300,000 a year is what we need to carry over each year or set aside each year to do that, 400,000 a year, which is about what we're going to carry over this next year, that 300-some-thousand.
When you said that there's 6 million total projects, is that including the half that will be taken out or whatever the proportion is for the roads that are doing water as well? Or is that, are you
So-
treating that road budget as a separate road budget?
No, to kind of, so reword that. There are, after we do these 2 projects, 2025 and 2026 on roads, we have 2.8, it's like, we'll say 2.9, we'll round up, $2.9 million worth of road work to do. Of that 2.9 million, 1.1 million of that is included with what it would be part of a water project. So that reduces the number down to 1.8 million.
Divided by 6 years or so.
Over about 6
Okay.
years. Then we have about 6 million in water. That includes that $1 million of road.
Hey, Ted, your mic died.
All right, so the other thing is on our budget narrative, we put in about 1.5 million. Is that just for this year then? That you sent us on Monday? Budget
Maybe
narrative.
get that out again here.
Hear me? Guys,
Ben, you can't hear Ted?
No,
you hear me, Chris?
his
Yes.
mic died.
It's hard to believe yet yesterday was Monday, but last night?
Oh, you're talking, yes, the $1.493 million.
Huh?
That does not include this current year that we're moving over, but it does include these, the 565,000 he was talking about in the beginning.
Okay,
But that's still, we're gonna be just throwing out a lot of numbers, but that still gives us that 300,000 carryover that he was talking about, which I don't think we'll have the luxury each year to do. We're actually gonna be carrying over just a little bit more. We had, our legal expenses came in less and a few other things came in less than originally anticipated.
so we will not, although Ted says that if we could carry over the 300,000 every year, we probably would be okay, but we probably won't be able to do that. So we're looking at a shortfall to finish these projects unless there's some significant revenue increase.
Well, and if we consider inflation and the way it's been, yes, I know we're out of COVID, but construction costs are leveling out, but I think they're still higher than the traditional inflationary rates for employees and those kind of things. That 300,000 may, in 3 years, it may not be sufficient anymore. So we might want to consider looking at getting some more projects done now, either through debt financing or something like that, so we can take advantage of inflationary numbers today that are lower.
Yeah, that's a real issue because we know in lots of industries, it's the labor force that is now doubled and tripled, even if the cost of the supplies may be stabilizing. Those items aren't coming down.
So to kind of simplify it for my benefit, what you're saying though, Ted, is that for at least on this trajectory, for at least the next 2 years, we would be okay as far as public works is concerned. But then that does leave some potential significant upward swing in the needs in the years that follow.
I mean, I guess the truth is, yes, we'd be okay for the next year.
Ted, you're still dead.
Here. And let's budget some money for,
Maybe we just need to wire up Wayne and Ted. They can carry one of those lapel ones, so they don't have to keep.
like a TED Talk.
So,
Yeah,
I'll let you and Brian snuggle, maybe there together, Mayor. So, yeah, so we have sufficient, I think sufficient in what we're going to have budgeted for the next 2 years to complete our road projects for the next 2 years. And then I guess the way to summarize it, over about the next 6 to 7 years, we'd have about $1.8 million we'd have to raise. Not each year, but the total of those 6 to 7 years. So, I mean, that's
so
kind
let
of,
me ask you this. If we're still budgeting roughly 800,000 in the roads every year regardless, that would still work if we divide the 1.8 out over. I think we're going to be okay with the way you're talking. I just want to make sure I
Yeah.
understand.
there's 800,000 in there. I mean, you're talking 3 years. You can
It's a
use that
million bucks.
800. You could even save a couple 100,000 and do it over 4 years and still pay for the entire road project replacement. So,
Still have enough for all the other things that may come up.
yeah, because most of our roads right now, we spend money on our crack sealing and potholing and stuff like that, fixing, which is most of that will start going away. So I think as far as road goes, we might be okay if we've got 800, and then if we carry over anything, that will just accelerate it. But 800,000 a year, that will complete the work in 3 years. 3 years would be 2.4 million, which would give us the money.
So
And the
in
question
that
mark would be the water.
800,000, that is pretty typical for our annual roads budget then, right? There's nothing exceptional about that. Is that fair to say?
We've been able to put that in with the regular revenues that we have now.
And that's not rolling anything over or anything like that. That's just part of our annual budget, that 800,000.
Let me just double check, make sure we're not pulling anything out of savings.
Yeah.
There. And
And if our current tax rate is going to get us 984,000 total.
Mayor, you're right. That does bring up, we are transferring still, as the proposed budget is transferring money from capital projects back over to this. So we are at about $576,000 to the tune that we're taking out of savings.
Okay. So our actual roads budget is really closer to 400,000.
Yep, correct.
But is that transfer only this year?
It's only being proposed right now for this year. So next year we'll be needing to come up with basically $600,000 again. So when somebody proposed just keeping the tax rate level, I think that's what we were going with, is that's going to help us not take so much out of savings, if anything at all, for the next year. And then not hit each of our property taxes, take property taxes so high. If we go back to the sheet here, if it's okay, Mayor, if I jump back to the spreadsheet, if we look at,
Can you, this too, by the way, I've got myself a shiny new mic with the really bright green light. I just want to make sure you can hear me okay.
sounds great.
Thanks.
Yeah, you sound like Clark Gable. Okay, so If if we look at the city rate or the city level rate plus 5%, we have to keep in mind it's really over a 12% raise to the citizens in property taxes because the 7% just by keeping it from what the state's recommending to keeping it level from last year plus 5%. So that's 7% plus 12. This would be 17%. This is 22%. This is 27%. So
We don't want
It-
any of,
I don't want any of those.
we don't want the 10, 15, or 20. Those are completely out.
just hide them. There
Bye.
we go. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
We don't
Feel
want
better?
them. Yes, I feel better. It was causing me anxiety, those ones up there.
Yeah. We want to make sure that we're using the best use of the taxpayers' dollars to give them the services they need. We know that safety is number one priority, which includes roads, both maintenance and repair of roads and also snow plowing of roads. Those are things that are really important to the citizens. So we don't want to shortchange them on that.
And my priority is just a little different. There's water to me is priority.
And water, well, of
Yeah.
course, water, but water comes out of a different.
We can
fund.
drive on dirt roads. We can
But-
hardly do anything without water.
Right, but water comes out of a different fund than what we're
Yeah.
talking about. So we don't have to, it pays for it itself by the way that we operate the waters with the enterprise fund. But this general fund then is something that I think we do need to consider because we won't always have we use the savings every year to supplement roads. We won't have that in 2 years. And we won't have the ability to finish the projects because our revenue, although it may increase slightly, it's not going to jump up that much. And the council at that time would need to make a really hard decision like 2019 had to, which was terrible.
And even with that, I don't know. I mean, if you're talking needing to jump it up 300,000-400,000, I mean, that's a sizable increase. I
Yeah.
don't know if that would even be, I mean, like Chris and I talk about how some of these taxpayer advocacy groups, I mean, they would hammer the city if we tried to jump it up that
So,
much.
but one of
And
the,
rightly so.
Just
one of the things we talked about last time was being able to finance these things and pay for time. So I think that that's something we need to look at, but let's go back to the 30,000 foot level here. So if we maintain the exact same as before and we get the 1.012, that's a 2.85% increase in tax revenue for the city. That doesn't come close to inflation.
Mhm.
And we're talking about doing bigger projects here, which we can finance, but that doesn't even get us even in the ballpark of inflation.
So you're saying keeping it from what it was last year does not even.
Yeah,
account
that's
for
on,
inflation.
that's not even a 3% increase in revenue, tax revenue for the city. So, and that's a really high level. And I get, I'm, the more I've thought about bringing those savings account levels down to a emergency fund, like I think they should be.
Yeah.
And financing these projects over time, we've still got to deal with those emergencies and the regular day-to-day business of running the city, and 3% doesn't get us there.
Yeah, no, I think that's,
especially in construction.
and I think, Chris, did you run a scenario? Because we did talk about just
Like-
keeping up with the inflation index.
Can you, so you have a
Look like-
5% on your graph. What about like a 2.5? What if you did half of that? City level plus 5%. What if you did city level plus 2.5? Is that too much to ask? Can you do that?
He's a wizard. Watch this.
I know, he's got the formulas all in there. Just for sake of argument. Ooh. Okay.
Oops. This did it. Sorry, let me fix this real quick. So this came out.
You're
That came
fine.
out
I just-
way too.
Oh, it went from the wrong, wait a minute.
Nope, Yep, I'm going the wrong way here. Hold on. Q7.
Adding it on 7.5%.
Yeah.
I know. It's okay.
Yeah,
We'll give you
yeah,
a minute.
sorry.
You're fine. Get it. We'll give you a minute. The reason
Okay.
I asked that is because then we would meet the inflation, right? We would keep up with inflation if we did.
Closer, yeah.
City rate plus
2.5.
2.5. Also, Chris, I remember a few years ago when we were doing things with more of on a loan, and Zions came in here and gave us their presentation, and it seemed to me at the time we were kind of to our threshold of how much we could
Yeah.
borrow. And
Mhm.
so as you're talking about the potential of getting more of a loan, a low interest loan, and start paying at today's rates rather than trying to do these where rates may increase going forward, do we have the capacity to do that and with this budget still be able to pay that off and run the city? I mean, make
Yeah,
the,
so
that is what I meant.
I've met with Zions Bank. We have capacity for about, they need to get into the numbers more, but about 1.8 to $3 million of still that we could borrow just in the general account, not the water account. Because the water account obviously has more revenues and stuff like that, but there is that capacity to borrow roughly the amount. Now we could do a GO bond or a general obligation bond, and that you could go pretty much sky's the limit, because that would be voted on by the citizens to attach that to the property taxes.
Right, that's voted on by the citizens, and I don't think they'll want to vote for that, but.
I think if you're going
Well-
after funding money, you'd want to look at the water side for the getting the funding.
Yeah.
Because you can pay that back through your water revenues
Right.
and then just pay for the roads out of the city funds. would
Jody,
be-
go ahead. Right?
Mind if you're going to do those water projects, you're probably going to also be looking at adjusting your water base rate and your tier level in order to fund those.
But we
So
can only do so much, right?
Well, so there's a formula. Well,
Magi
it's
formula.
changing actually. They're no longer, you used to go to different water agencies, get different types of funding. They're now creating one agency that's going to handle all water funding. They're just in the throes right now of collecting all the city information on cities that need. But I was looking at also funding stuff. And right now, I think in our using the formula that drinking water used to use when you went and got their funding, we have a funding capacity of about, in our water bill is high enough to have about $14 right now of our water bill could go. Our average water bill, $14 of our average water bill per person could go towards funding right now to pay back debt service. So what I haven't calculated is what does that mean dollar wise, but I can figure that out real quick. You would just take the number of connections, 500 times 14. That gives you an annual payment that you could make, and then you
To a water project.
amortize it to a water project. So, and I can probably figure that number out pretty quickly, but
I'd like to see the water project move forward faster. if
yeah,
possible.
yeah. And I think that one's that one's a little more, I mean, I think when I was looking at this earlier, one of two things with the water project. Either we do smaller chunks at a time and pay back what we can, which could take years, or we raise our water rates and go after funding to fund the whole. It's
Don't we
going to
have
take us
do a
water.
study, though, to raise the water rates?
No, you can do a rate. Well, we can do a water rate increase, which is basically just doing some formulas on paper. It's not really that challenging. You don't have to do a study. We have to do an impact fee study
Right.
when you're doing your impact fees,
That's
but
what I
not
meant.
water rates.
Okay.
Just the poor people on Maple. I'd really like to see them be able,
Well, and
their
we are
roads.
so close to having all this major stuff done. I mean, you can see the finish line now. We can't trip. We've come so far.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Maple is the worst water line as well. So that's
I know, I just
that project itself is about $1.2 million to do Maple and Waterline and Road.
I just really would like to see, they've just had, their road's been bad for as long as I've lived here and
Yeah.
they need it. It's their turn. They need it.
We do.
Well, and Ted, I think it's also important to remember that you mentioned before that debt financing is kind of the industry standard when it comes to water projects. I don't know so much about roads, probably to a
And-
large extent roads as well. But I mean, saving up cash to do these projects is just kind of a thing of the past.
Yeah, the challenge you have, and this is what I used to share in my private world clients, all the cities I worked with all the time. The challenge you have is by the time you save enough cash to do the projects, you're already years behind on on the other projects that need to be done.
Yeah.
And so by the time you get that one done, now you're 10 years behind on the next project that needs to be done. So financing is I think, and any financing agency and anybody who deals with infrastructure and financing, I'll tell you that's the best way to do it. Finance your projects, get the work done.
And the right people.
In today's dollars.
Look at the change in cost.
In
on,
today's
uh,
dollars.
Loafer, the road we just did, how much the price changed from. when
Yeah.
Yeah.
we did it a few years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you
And
can
Mayor, I
get,
kn- oh.
Go
We're,
ahead.
we're mixing 24 or 25 budget, 26 budget and all this discussion. So we're actually killing three birds with one stone here. But one thing that I would think everybody should consider is we just get rid of all of our transfers and our savings down here. We're only gonna put $31,000 away this upcoming year. And the challenge is we're gonna be chasing our tail if we ever want to buy an ambulance and the ambulance is $300,000. We have $35,000 in the bank account. It's just, I'm not sure that the way the financing works now and the leases that are set up for government agencies, it's worth it to have many of these savings accounts anymore.
yeah.
I think that's a really important point.
I think the fire truck was a big wake up to us.
Yes, exactly.
With the financing side of things, that we ended up having all this money that we'd saved up, but financing was smarter. The finance thing. And so. we
And I
put it
assume
into
that,
the
oh, I didn't
budget.
mean to cut you
Yeah.
off.
No. It just, we're realizing that makes more sense.
And then like something like that, I mean, the security would be the engine itself. And for an ambulance, the
Yep.
security would be the ambulance itself. And so we wouldn't have to worry about even our revenues, I guess, in that sense. I mean, I guess to a certain extent, but
And then current citizens are paying for those things.
So did you figure those numbers?
Oh,
It-
yeah, sorry.
No, I want to see, I'm curious, sorry.
Oh,
Now, the 1087 is not correct on the 2 point, that's the 5%, right?
Yeah,
which one,
Bot-
sorry? This,
at the,
The-
no,
the
the very
bottom,
bottom where you
the revenue.
did the,
I was
that
just-
oh,
one.
this is something totally different. Sorry.
That's city revenue at 5%.
Yeah, those are just the different options that we're looking at the moment.
so if we do that, like the sort of hybrid that Janet talked about, so I think like Brian observed, we've addressed inflation. We are getting a little bit of extra revenue to sort of, as I heard it put last council meeting, pay for the sins of our fathers kind of a thing. And no offense intended to the founding fathers. Doral. But I think that, I mean, that might be, I would agree with you, Brian, that at a minimum, and I said this, I think last time, I mean, when we get that certified rate from the state, it does not take into account inflation. They rely on us to make those adjustments. And so I agree with you
Yeah.
that that's entirely justifiable for us to say, well, we've got to at least keep pace with rising costs.
Cities were trying to talk to them because on a state budget, they do put in inflation. But on the cities, they don't allow us to do that. And so we're always having to have the truth and taxation. They don't have to do that.
Yeah.
And so it does make it a little bit difficult when we're trying to keep up with all of the different rates of services that we try to provide, and they've increased. Now, people would say, well, the homeowners, the homes increase in value, which is true, but when the homes increase, it's sort of a weird thing because then the money we get actually goes down to keep level.
Yeah.
So just because your home is valued more doesn't mean that we're getting more of a property tax they try to keep it level. And I think that's why keeping the rate the same and then maybe adding that 2.5 for inflation might be our best option to
If
be
you,
realistic about what we're looking at here. We don't want to tie the hands of future councils who then say, what happened? Why are you indebted us to this project, these projects that need to go forward, but didn't leave a funding mechanism?
if you look at the lowest level home, but it's only $30 more for the top one. I mean, it goes up from there, right? Depending on the price of the house, but yeah, but it's not horrendous.
And I think that's striking a good compromise. I mean, it's getting us to where we need to be just to keep pace, and then not an exorbitant amount, but some that we can then put away toward, future projects. But again, I actually tend to think that our most expensive projects, we really should finance those. I mean, it's not feasible for us to ever anticipate being able to pay cash for those.
Yeah.
I just
my
think we need to make
recommendation
sure we
would
can
be
do the debt service, though. We need to
Right.
really,
The,
Well, they won't loan us the money unless all that debt service pins out with tax exempt bonds. But just so you guys can see comparison, if you do the 2.5 versus what the state is proposing, this is the true number
okay.
that is gonna go up this year. One thing that I'd like to show the council each time is you do have the ability to go to a 0070. So just so you can see what that is, that brings almost $2.3 million. So on the high side, you want to get your face in the paper and be on TV. You could do something like that and brings in $3 million.
Jody, I'd like to rescind my application.
Chris?
yeah, hey, well, kind of, once again, it's that house divided.
I smell a new
Yeah.
council.
I get budget to do stuff, but then I also got to pay on the other side, which,
Yeah,
We all do. And that's one of the things that the citizens need to remember too, is that we're paying what
we have to
they're
pay it
paying.
too.
And so we're trying to be, cautious of that and yet also having a more in-depth knowledge of what it takes to run the city. We don't want to go in the hole in just the future to save a dollar or two here. So keeping it consistent, especially with inflation, is helpful. Now, the hardest part, I think, is if those other entities, which we have no control over, that are on the property tax bill, raise theirs significantly, then a lot of times the city's the one that gets blamed for it all. So we might need to make sure that we're being very open about the process and what our portion really is compared to what everybody else's portion may be.
We're still gonna get blamed.
But
yeah. Go up, when you're looking at that, keep in mind, that's just the city's portion going up.
Right.
right,
I mean,
right.
when you say,
That's why I'm thinking that we have a Chris Crusade letter for the next the July newsletter, because that's when all of the citizens, if we do this proposed 2.5, they will all get a letter from the county in July, and that's where the anxiety starts coming. So if we had something about how it's done and how it's, how the rates work, because most people think if their property goes up, then we get more, which is opposite.
A Glenn video. It might be time for a Glenn
Yeah,
video.
it might be right for that Glenn video back.
He's a little preoccupied, I would think.
He'll be
but-
finished.
But can we
He's
use the
busy.
same one he did last time? Or was it very specific to that? Did he make it generic enough on how it works?
I think
I think it was.
I think it was generic enough that we could put it back.
He
We
might,
don't
out.
need
he
a
might
sequel?
just tweak it a little bit.
Just co-pilot it. Just
Except for
put
if
it
you
in
know
and then
Glenn, he
co-pilot
won't be able to
change
leave it
to the
alone.
city's
He'll have to
numbers.
work it over.
Don't get me started on AI. I was struggling with it yesterday and today. I swear it's getting dumber.
More people are inputting, maybe.
Yeah, it's slower and it's dumber. All right, well, so is everyone comfortable? So we don't belabor just a bunch of hypotheticals. Is everybody comfortable if we just look at this hybrid and pencil that out? Or do you want to look at something different or more specific? Or is everybody comfortable if we make that kind of the goal that we're looking at, and then we can consider the implications and what that gets us in terms of added revenue
I think this is a great compromise.
I have one question for Chris, though, on that. If we do the 2.5 compromise, does that get us to the level we need for the proposed budget that we've been talking about for the last couple of months? And also, would it allow for us, if we did do debt finance, that we would be able to pay off or pay our portion every month of whatever that is for the road projects
That's a big ask.
or the water projects, whichever we're going to do,
Water has to be paid back through water.
right?
So-
Yeah,
I just want to make sure that this covers those things so that as we're talking to residents, we're not giving information that may not be accurate. We want to say, yes, this proposed increase will help us with this and this.
it will if we don't have extra things like lawsuits or something like that come up.
But we
Just
do have-
so you,
Takings or another Maple Canyon well problem, right?
Well, we have really, in my thought process, we have really drained our savings.
Yeah, we have.
on water. With our project and with Maple Canyon, that has really sucked a lot out of the water that had been saved up. Now,
But you have
Where
to
we
save
need
that
to be.
back through water, right? That wouldn't be through
Yeah,
this
that's
fund.
not for.
no, no,
You'd
no,
have to
I
do your
get
water
that, but
rates,
I was,
yeah.
I was just mentioning that we have pretty much.
We're just
brought that
talking
one
about
down to our
emergencies.
Level
Like,
that we
Mhm.
want to keep it in our pockets, right? That's my thought on it. That we do need to look at it. But, yeah, I
so
think it's big of an ask to look at financing now. I mean, that's,
Other than, no, in fact, I started looking at financing and was just getting ready to dial the phone number to drinking water to see what we could do for water projects. When we got the email about they're coming with this coalition funding agency. Can't remember the name of them. That's really going to handle all the water project funding for the state. And you no longer go to several different agencies. So they sent out a request a few months ago for all cities to submit their projects for water. So I submitted ours and they're going to get a list of all these projects put together. And then probably within the next year, we'll start
yeah, we just need to look.
requesting funding. So I should say, yes, as soon as we can request funding, I think we need to start doing it.
How much
Challenges,
would
I
our
don't know what that's,
$14 get us? That's
Not
another
much.
question.
I just don't know right now what their parameters are going to be for funding. So I don't know what to put in the equation. $14 gets us $7,000 a year towards a payment of about 200,000.
That's what I was wondering. It's insignificant. It's,
Yeah, it's not,
so, well, we got another place to go,
Yeah.
when we're looking at water. So,
Yeah.
let's get through the general fund.
Well, but that's good to know that, I mean, that's the next step, right? I mean, so once, and is that lower interest then? Is that something that sort of offers us by by coalescing this process or what's the advantage?
I
other than
don't-
inserting a bunch of bureaucrats.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. They used to, because if you had a drinking water project, you went to drinking water. If you had a irrigation project, you went to water resources. And the monies came in, half of it comes from the federal government through EPA to these agencies, and some of it's state funded. I don't know if it just the water projects got too much to try and figure out how to fund the different projects, because some of them got funded through FEMA and they're finding, I mean, they've got, what was it, $16 billion worth of replacement projects and another 16 billion in new projects that are needed in the next like 20 years. So I think they're just trying to get a handle on how are we going to fund these. And it really came down to the Division of Drinking Water actually ran out of funding money during COVID because they got some of the ARPA money and everyone started applying for money, including us. And they end up overextending and they get it paid back. But I think they finally said, we got to get a little bit better handle on this. I
Gotcha.
think that's what they're trying.
Wayne, did you have something?
I was just, I guess to better understand, and maybe it's too early to make these projections, but in using that particular percentage for our taxes, how much money of our projected budget does that give us to go into a savings account? And connection with that, I think Carrie raised a good point with with using that, and the budget figures that we were tentatively looking at, are we covering all of our expenditures that we have planned to make? Or are we going to need to go into savings again, possibly at the end of the year, to make up for any deficiencies that we might have?
Well, I would say we're covering our expenses. This would
Oh,
be
yeah.
gravy, so to speak. I mean, this is something where I think that with the currently proposed budget, I think that, you know, what we can never anticipate is what craziness could come up, and that's what those savings are needed for. But as far as like our day-to-day operational expenses, I think that those are all laid out in this to the extent that we can fully predict them.
We know, again, maybe it's too early, how much of this budget are we planning on setting aside in savings? Any?
Well, it's just it's those accounts that you were just talking about, right, Chris?
Yeah, not more than the state allotted amount. So I'm just looking here real quick.
The
Because we do
capital
have-
fund savings, just in our rainy day fund, a general rainy day fund that we're allowed to keep a certain amount in, not the capital project funds.
Yeah, so if we raise it it's roughly 9.87% is what we're talking about overall. We are still dipping into savings. Instead of 575,000, we're dipping into savings roughly 431,000. This is kind of hard too, because Ted and I had a meeting yesterday and we were going over the carryovers. So I can have a better numbers for you by the next council meeting, but we're still going to be dipping into savings, because this only gets us, what we're talking about here is getting us roughly $114,000 more. Let's see, about $100,000 more than what's been projected by the state so far. So we're still dipping into savings.
So maybe even a quick question, and Chris, maybe, I don't know what the budget is going to look like. So my budget this year for road improvements was about $700,000. 697.
One aspect, yeah, you were about 1.1 million overall total. But
Right.
for physical
Right.
repairs, you got 105 from Class C and then 600
Oh.
from the other.
600 something. So it's about $800,000. I mean,
Yeah.
just maintaining that, we'll be able to do our road projects in the amount of time we need to do them in, if we just keep our budget. But
But to Wayne's question, we're still taking some out of savings to meet that.
And
Your 800.
if we
is
keep taking
part
out
of
of savings,
that's
we're going to
coming
run
from
out.
savings to give you that budget. So I guess to the
so
point
what was
of
my total budget when we
how
did
we-
take any out of savings?
how we,
I don't
how
know, I
much
agree.
do we anticipate, do we put into savings as we're going forward, even though we're taking it out of savings to balance the books at some point along the way?
Yeah, I wish I could give you that number tonight. That's complex.
Okay.
Well, I would say, what do we need to have? And I'd have to rely on Ted a lot for this, is what do we need to have in a rainy day fund for public works?
So generally, when you're looking at what do we need for a rainy day fund, I mean, you're talking something that's a dire catastrophic emergency. Now, when I say not, for example, the well
A
project
lot of time.
or the well, if the well goes down, we need something right away to fix that. It's hard to predict what that could be, but most of the time it's replacing the pump and motor, which, like $100,000 to do that. That would be something that you would need to do right away. A road, if it completely failed and you had a big pothole, not a pothole, sorry, a sinkhole, that's an emergency. Probably cost you $100,000 to fix. If we lost power, well, not much we can do about that right now until we get our generator. Once we have a generator, hey, no worries. So, I mean, you're talking something that would have to be a pretty significant failure and fix. But in our city, that's, $150,000. Now, if you get a complete well collapse, well, you're talking a whole new well project, and you're going to have to find some emergency funding then,
Yeah,
because
that-
you're not
that-
going to have enough in your
that's-
budget. But
yeah.
but something that could go wrong. I mean, we don't have a lot of infrastructure, so to speak. We've got our roads, we've got our sewer, and we've got our water, our main infrastructure. And of those, water is the critical. And of that, really, if you get a pipeline break or a well failure or something like that, generally within $100,000, you're going to be able to fix those. Roads, once again, it'd have to be something like a huge sinkhole happens, you know, and then you're 100 grand, 150 grand to fix it.
Well, Comcast is up here.
Say big avalanche or a big mud flow.
They're
or something
causing
like that.
damage.
Yeah, and that
don't
if
know
it
what
can,
those
depends on the
costs.
damage it would do, but if because mostly if it comes down and damages houses, well, that's insurance on the homeowner, right? But if it's a road, you know, you may spend 150, $200,000 fixing a road if a mudslide on
Okay.
the road or something like that. So
So if we add, we don't all, but when we have them, they're big for us. So we should, at least in our rainy day fund, have enough for 2 emergency projects a year, just in case. I remember one
So-
time, a few years ago, we had to buy pumps more than
I
once.
would say if you're setting aside enough for 2 emergency projects every year, within the first year, you're going to be covered for quite a while.
Yeah.
So you look at one a year and just average it out, you know, type thing. If you put 100,000 away a year, you know, in 5 years, you're going to have $500,000, which will cover a pretty good event.
Well, and
Unless you're
I'm-
pulling
I'm
from it.
proposing we set a rainy day budget that we want to get to. We make a plan to get to that budget over years, and then we stop putting into those.
Well, and then we don't dip out of that and
Correct,
to
correct.
that
There-
amount.
There are.
We get more, we use
emergency
it.
Budgets, and then if we have to use it, then we have to come back the next year and help refund that again.
And you're talking the general fund, not the water fund, Brian?
I would say with any of our funds.
So once again, we're limited on the general fund unless we have an identified project.
Yep.
But the water fund, we can do what we need to, but I
We
think
can
the
s-
state sets laws up to 25% that we can carry over. So we kind of need to
Right.
think about that.
Chris, I have a question. So you said that with the 2.5, we would still have to dip into savings?
Yes.
So what percentage do we need to not dip into savings? Is it 3%? What?
0.007. Get the news going. That was a joke, by the way. Let me
I'm
work
like,
those numbers.
You're
Let
lucky
me work
you're-
those numbers.
That's my question, because the 5 is high. So, and I like
So-
the 2.5, but I just am asking what percentage does it need to be to not dip in the savings?
I mean, that would be high, I would assume, because with what we're proposing, that gets us an extra roughly 100,000.
Well,
So,
and
I
I'm
mean,
not
it'd almost be-
proposing that. I'm just
Right, I
asking
understand,
what
but-
it would need to be.
I would
That's
think
what
it
I want
almost
to
need to
know.
be, I think it almost would need to be close to that 0.07, wouldn't it?
Aren't we pulling about a $500,000 out right now? So
Yeah,
you need
so
to
it
make
would-
up $500,000, so 400 grand.
Did we
Correct. So-
have it out to start the year with? Because I'm showing the budget started this year with like 600 something thousand in roads maintenance.
Let me see here.
And that's where I'm getting a little
Th-
confused. If that's the case.
This
That's
is- This is the problem of doing it on the fly, because we did have like the cameras. We had some of the higher lawsuit things. We had some additional fire equipment that we purchased with radios and things like that. So we're gonna get this all in recording. We're doing it by the fly. We've gone so many different ways, and it's kind of hard to really nail it down at this
I know, sorry.
right here, this second. Well, no, not just you, but just in general. But we have this, I believe this is on the regular council agenda tonight. Is that also on there?
Say
That would
that
give me
again.
some time. This is on the regular council agenda. That would give me some time to look at what extra costs we had this year that wouldn't necessarily be next year.
Okay.
And if we look at the general, the biggest thing we've kind of planned for in the future that would be out of the norm in the general budget would be something for fire. Like if a fire happened and we had to, have a plane come in or helicopter come in and drop retardant, we're responsible for the first 2 or 3 drops. And then after that, it's something like FEMA or somebody else kicks in. But so at that point, we were looking 7, 8, 10 years ago, it was $10,000. Now I'm sure it's $20,000, $25,000 per drop. But
And we have one sitting in Spanish Fort, which is cool.
Ted, did your mic die again?
No, it's-
There we go.
And so, yeah, we just the last few years entered into an agreement with the state. A lot of the cities have around here. It's a cooperative wildland system. And basically what it says is if we participate in this wildland mitigation work, which is our match dollars we have to make, then the state will pick up the tab if they have to come and help us fight a fire in our city. wildland fire.
So if a road washes away, we can deal with gravel and stuff. The road can still work.
Yeah.
So it's hard to nail down. And if the mud comes from the mountainside, from the state's property, maybe the state helps kick in, I'm not sure. FEMA, whoever. But the water account is more concerning to me because we've got to keep money in the savings account because that, like Ted said, it's critical
Yeah.
infrastructure.
Infrastructure there.
So
Roads
trying
we can
to
reroute. Water
make sure
can't.
we focus here then. So if we could continue then with that compromise that we talked about, and then I think, Chris, if you can crunch the numbers in
It doesn't
real
have to be
time that-
exact. I'm just
where we
curious.
could get a sense as to what it would take, not dip into savings, current savings at all this budget year, if that's even a feasible
think-
possibility.
And I
but-
think for like truth and taxation, that might be some really good information. Where we're raising it a little bit, we can say we're still having to take out of savings. If you wanted us to not take any out of savings, we would have had to raise it to this.
And how much we had out of
Or
the savings this
Fix the
last
road
year, right?
slower.
Yeah.
Or
But I
try-
mean,
There are
Which is
choices.
completely ineffective too.
Yeah.
Well, I like our plan. Yeah.
Yeah, no, this way, I
I
agree.
agree.
This is manageable.
And
I
right?
agree.
Yeah.
But I just think for me, it'd be good to have the visual, and I think for the citizens too, to be able to see.
Yep. So assuming what you had on the screen for the state tax rate was right, and it's 1.114, this would give us a 13.21% increase in tax revenue, which is,
Versus what the state is proposing versus the
no, this is from last year, the 980.
Okay.
Which is definitely much better. I mean, it's actually I believe it's really close to, if not exceeding slightly, inflation.
And if we can be above inflation a little bit, then I think, how the council allocates that money. I mean, I mean, I agree with you that it needs to be specifically allocated to that savings purpose, but,
Yep.
but I mean, the council can allocate, if we get the rate where it gives us an adjustment for inflation and then gets us a little bit of gravy beyond that, then you can direct it be put into that rainy day fund and
Yeah, if there's a general $250,000 rainy day fund that we're trying to
Hey,
get to and maintain, that seems reasonable. And
hey.
but
Especially
that's my thought.
considering the prices, and I think that we can explain to citizens, this is how much a water pump is, and if our water pump goes out, we need to
Yep.
have.
And I'm just talking about the
emergency.
general rainy day
Right,
fund.
and
the
if there's
yeah.
something major with the road, we need to be able to fix it that day, and that's why we need the rainy day fund.
Yep.
It's not that we're stockpiling money, we're just keeping it there, and the things that go out are usually a big item thing.
And they cost us a lot when you have to do them
Mhm.
fast. So you've got to actually have more than what you would plan for.
Okay,
So
so-
maybe just something to throw in the mix real quick for Chris. Because I was just looking at our beginning year budget, and it looks like there was almost, making some assumptions here, 700,000 that was put into the roads maintenance budget. Probably $500,000 of that roughly was carried over from savings. So if we added that, the balance of that, the difference, I should say, of about 200,000 plus the Class C, that's about 300,000 a year, without dipping into savings that we would have maybe towards road projects. So that would give us, even if we did some extra work beyond project, that gives us 8-9 years to pay it back. So we're getting close with what we would have there.
And that's without any savings.
That's without any savings. So just throwing that out. I was just looking at, so we had 697,000 that was allocated this year. I don't know how much was carried over from savings. I think it was around $500,000 carried over from savings. So that leaves us about 200,000 that wasn't. And then we got 105,000 in Class C road funds. That's about $300,000 that was there without dipping into savings. And if you spent all of that just on our roads projects, that'd be 6 years of road projects right there to have it done. So,
Okay.
I mean, we're getting close.
Yeah, that's good. And something that is feasible.
Yeah.
And you're the guy, all you got to work is 30 more years and you
I just
can
have
see
to
this
keep
thing
spinning
through.
the same story for the next 7 years or 8 years, then I can let someone else have it.
All right. Well, if agreeable, then let's proceed with that compromise rate then. And if you guys want to see how that pencils out, and then we can make that, assuming it's agreeable to everybody, that
Are you okay?
the formal adoption.
Yeah, no higher.
Yeah, yeah. The 5.
Yeah,
didn't
I will
look-
work on that while you guys are discussing. So we've already, we've
So-
gone over number 3 and number 4 too already.
Yeah, I had one more question too, Jody.
On the county, it's got, I sent you this earlier today. It says that it's a 0.004 something tax rate we have. Is
I
there-
saw that.
Yeah,
Is there a
I
way
saw
to
it too.
clarify that if we don't have that? Because if individuals start going to that site, they're gonna see that. And
Okay, I don't know. Let's see, you said you sent it to me on an email.
yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
to all of us.
It says,
tax
Chris,
right
can
there.
you help shed some light on why the county is saying Woodland Hills city tax rate is 0.004354?
Maybe that's accounting for all taxes. Like,
No, that's just our city.
It's not, it's just our city is what they're showing on
Well,
the
some-
spreadsheet.
Our city
something
is
doesn't match then.
0.004354.
Yeah, because what I've got here is the official, this is the official state website. This is put out by the utah.gov. So I'll have to look and see what this comparison,
What's Jody?
where did we
doing
get this?
We're dropping it.
Yeah. We don't need a hearing.
Right. That'd be sweet.
Well, if you want that price, holy cow, look what that would do to the city.
Just keep it the same.
435. That was a couple of years ago. We had that rate.
It's in there.
And so maybe they're looking at an out-of-date thing. I just was like, wow, okay.
Let's see, we had that rate right here. We had that rate in 2020. That's that exact rate right there.
Yeah, you're right.
Huh.
Their information on their site is
Well,
Out
that's
of
not
date.
fair.
Well, only by 5 years.
We'll get
so-
chewed out for no reason.
You know, they're working
Read-
since
Yeah,
COVID.
that's true.
Yeah, that's crazy. But yeah, that's where they're getting the rate. Right, that is identical.
I want to let them know, Chris. Another question I have, so if we stay with the 2.5, you're saying that with the current budget as proposed, we would still need. So I just want to make sure that we're aware that that is happening. We wouldn't be putting into savings, we'd be dipping out.
And that's what I'm going to work on right now while you guys are still doing your rest of your council meetings to see exactly how much extra we had to put in this year for bigger
Good.
things that we purchased.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Chris.
Good
All right.
work, Chris.
Well, so then, why don't we, jump on to well, I'm gonna let Chris focus in on that, so.
Let's go to 6.
6, yeah, security agreement on durability and inspections for Phase B of the Bell subdivision. I'm guessing this is you, Wayne?
Was in our old ordinance as well as our new ordinance. The old ordinance requires it come before the council. So Bellevue is getting ready to go forward and do the work on the subdivision there. It has changed hands, it appears. We knew it was going to happen. They apparently have sold it to another developer who's willing to come in and assume all the responsibility to move that subdivision forward. So in the process, we have addressed the security agreement, which is in our ordinances, which they provide 6% of the cost of the work to be done for durability, for the lastingness of the work that they're going to do. And because of the uniqueness of the situation, just a reminder to you all, we're requiring a 2-year durability, not a normal 1 year, which they've agreed to do. And then there's a 10% inspection fee that is assessed up front. And any inspections that the city makes, that our engineers make, will come off of that amount. So it requires approval of the city council.
Hey, Wayne, just
Yes.
a correction on that. It's a 6% inspection fee, I believe, isn't
Oh,
it?
I'm
Instead of
sorry.
10.
reverse it.
So it's a 10% durability.
Durability and 6% inspection. Yeah. So it requires the city council to approve it. They've given us the figures. Ted's reviewed them, is satisfied with them. And those amounts are reflected then in this agreement, security agreement for them. We've had our attorney, in fact, we got the agreement from our attorneys. So we're comfortable that they've covered the bases in that. And that's what that is. The council will need to approve it in council meeting tonight. So
Okay.
any questions with that?
The details of the things they will be inspected on are in another document somewhere.
Correct.
Okay.
And we've had this in our ordinance
yeah.
for years,
Yeah.
and we're catching up with it. So we haven't used it to any great degree in the past. We realize that has not gotten the attention that it needs to, and so we're implementing now we'll start using that in the future, now and in the future.
Incremental
Security
improvements.
agreement.
Right. Incremental improvements. That's what we're.
Yes,
for here.
yes, very good.
All right. Any questions then?
That's good.
All right. Thanks, Wayne. Large purchase requests.
Just stay back there. Just stay there. No,
Come on up, Ted.
we're talking budget. Read the room.
Yeah, that's item 8. So I actually, I
It's all in good fun, right?
good
You know that, right, Ted?
can't think of anything.
Okay.
We don't have anything, right? I mean, I think that all our needs are met. Okay,
Awesome.
yeah. See, it can't
I
be
was
done.
just teasing him. He knows it, right? I'm like, I'm not like serious. I'm mostly serious, but
Right. All right, well, but you do have something to say about our sale, or Brian?
revenue.
Well, we probably both do. So one of the items that we had on auction that sold for a whole $1, they didn't pay for, it reposted automatically and it didn't sell. So we're stuck with that plow mount piece. So it's scrapped now, unless somebody wants it. I posted
What
a
was
few
it?
more items today. It's a mount for the snow. For
Oh,
a
yeah,
snowplow
yeah.
That's been sitting up on the thing for years.
Mm-hmm.
I did post 3 items today on the auction site, so we've got more auctions coming. They're not going to be really big ones, but Ted has some other stuff that he can go through.
Nice.
So the Kubota, the old orange Kubota, we sold it. We did got a valuation on it from a Kubota dealer and sold it for the value they recommended. We sell it for $8,500. It's sold. We've got the money. We sold those what were going to be the oil heating system tanks that sat downstairs in the boiler room.
Oh, yeah.
We got all those out and sold them, $1,000
Except for
bucks.
the one.
Except,
little
sorry.
one is I just posted.
Yeah, the one little, except for the one little one that, but
So you sold 5 of them? 5 of the 6?
3,
Oh.
4,
4.
There were 4.
4, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Or, yeah, Toby, yeah, you're right, 4. Toby did a great job. He employed our wildland crew to help him, and they got them all out of there. Well, Craig helped with one and the others. They got them all out of there out here. And the guy come from Wyoming and bought them, so
$1,000 each, or 1,000 for all 4?
for all 4 of them, yeah. I was seeing him go on the auction for old ones like that, and this was missing a few parts. So they were going for $212, $215. So we sold them for $250 each.
Excellent.
So the Kubota and the tanks, and then we got all the fuel tanks out of the well house. We had 9 of them there.
Wow.
They're now all out of the well house.
Oh,
And
how'd you get them out?
Yeah. Train?
Weren't they
Is
like
there
in the
anything he
basement?
can't do?
sorry.
Weren't they downstairs?
They were downstairs. I did not watch the operation, but I talked to the guys who did it. We talked about doing, I think we brought this up to the council a while back, was one of our on-call contractors, they came up and did it. So they had, wasn't easy. They spent all day getting all of them out because
Oh, great.
So what they had
Wow.
to do was take three empty ones and they had to twist them sideways. They would slide them across the floor on some boards. Then they'd have to turn them sideways. Then they'd have to drop a winch down in there, hook them up, winch them out of the hole. They had to move the rails anyway, then turn them back again flat ways, and then winch them up again, and then had to take the door and frame off the door, and get them out the door. Anyway, it took them all day and a lot of muscle work, but they got it, the three of them. And what they did is they took three empty ones out, and then we had the fuel pump down there that was all hooked up. So they were able to use the fuel pump, and the hose was long enough to get just out the door. So they pumped the three full ones from the basement into the three empties they brought up, and then got the other six out.
3 former Boy Scouts there.
Yeah,
Get all
yeah,
that
it was
done.
a project. They got it out. So the deal was here, what we talked to the contractor about was he will bill us his labor for getting his crew getting those out, and then we will sell him comparable amount of inks, which he will pay for, if that makes sense. And then we'll sell the rest on the auction. So I think it worked out to be a really good deal.
Yeah. No,
Well, good.
I was just gonna say, how much are we gonna make off of it versus that labor? I was just about to
thrown in the
ask
towel
that.
on those. I mean, I just wasn't thinking that was even gonna happen, so.
Yeah.
just in terms of
Well,
our
Just
ability
Our
to
ability
logistics.
extract them.
to get them out.
So we'll
Yeah,
actually, we'll end up
logistics.
money ahead in the end.
And we've got 1,500 gallons of fuel.
And we got 1,500.
And it's good.
Yeah.
Is it good or is it old?
No, I think it's good. Yeah, it's been in there a couple of years, but it's been in the basement, a controlled environment, sitting in those tanks. I might condition it a little bit, but I think it'll be fine.
We're gonna test it on, is your Jeep diesel?
No.
Brian has a
Hey,
diesel.
hey, hey.
Yeah. We're gonna let
One
everyone
way
in
to be
town who has
sure.
diesel trucks come up, and we'll fill them.
Yeah.
We'll give it a shot, see how long their trucks run. If
Line
they
up.
run, we're good.
Line up. It's downhill to the next station.
We've actually got our new fuel tank is sitting up there now. Has been installed for our backup generator. It's a
Good.
1,000-gallon tank, so we can use the fuel out of these because they're sitting right next to it. We'll just get a transfer pump and fill this tank up with it, and then we'll use the other 500 gallons to fill various stuff in the city.
That's amazing. I'm so glad to hear that we're getting that fuel storage for the generator.
Yeah, and got that other thing out too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's a big win.
I remember we went on the tour and they were all down there. That's why I'm like, the basement?
They got 9 of them out of there. Yeah, it was.
Wow.
Well, it was 3 guys over 50 who got them all in there. So
Yeah, we're still useful.
yeah, yeah. I wasn't one of them because I'm not that useful, but there were 3 useful guys over 50 that got them in there.
Yeah.
Ted, I had a quick question about the well project. The pump that we currently have in there, is it a dual voltage motor? Will it run the 480?
Well, it's a loaded question. No, unless you hook it to a VFD, because with a VFD, you can
You can't, you'd have to have a step down transformer for it.
no the VFD.
No,
So
even with a VFD, you would,
because right now it runs.
unless it's a step down VFD.
Yeah, and that's what I've done before on projects where we've had. Usually it's the other way around. You have 480
Use
power
the
coming
step
in,
down. Yep.
and then you put it through the VFD, and then you can run a 220 volt.
My question
motor.
is whether we keep
The
that
ribbon
pump
antennas.
as a spare or, sorry, or do we sell that pump and get a 480 pump as a spare?
Of course,
Yeah.
the 480, the VFD.
The VFD.
You know, we just might as
Step
well
down.
just look
Step
at it.
down
Yes,
VFD.
step down VFD. Yes,
So-
exactly.
Good question.
Something to think about.
Yeah.
It's not a now decision, but when we're talking about sales of.
The simpler thing would be to get an equal
Yeah.
backup pump.
Yeah, but that's $100,000.
Okay, nerdies.
But it's 100 grand and we just don't have 100 grand for that. So we just
Precisely.
figured that out.
All right.
Yeah, well, I think that's a great update. So thanks for all your work.
Thank you for making us some money.
Yeah. And
Oh,
You do have 100 grand for that pump. You just have to take it out of water savings.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah.
Well, we need that for the road, for the water line projects that we're gonna do roads with.
And there's always a question mark about these size of pumps having backups, because sometimes the challenge is you get a backup and they sit on the shelf for 15 years, and then by the
And
time
they
you go to
don't
use them,
run.
the seals are dried up, and they're not very useful. These ones, a lot of times you can get fairly quickly, these
Yeah,
smaller
And
ones. So,
that might be, just keep the money available.
yeah.
So,
and while you're there, let's talk grants.
Ready, set, go. We can probably just take that one off the agenda. There's nothing to report. We didn't even get that one this year. The culvert project is a slow moving project, and mainly because we're trying to time it with the NRCS project. So we are going to survey well, no, they were up there surveying already, I believe. Got that surveyed because we have to look at easements for some of those culverts. But really, it's no real big updates on that one. Just timing of it, we're slowing it down because it's ties to the NRCS project, which is moving very slowly.
That hasn't been torpedoed either, which is good.
Hasn't been torpedoed. Yeah, they Doge didn't get rid of.
Right.
They got rid of the
Yeah.
brick.
Doged.
Right.
Yeah, they got rid of the brick, but
They got rid of the brick program, but
Mhm.
not this one.
which is
yet.
unfortunate because we were hoping to get that one.
Yeah.
Okay, Mag Trail feasibility.
So that one is, the project's underway. That's the one that WCG, Jeremy's group, is doing for us, the study. So they're about 10-20% through the study. I mean, they've done all the aerial, they did drone survey of a route that was proposed in the funding application. And we just walked through it last week and looked at it, and it's going to be a tough little project to try and get a trail to fit, but in our rights of way. But it's moving along. The grant has been, it's approved. Now we're spending the money on the study.
The other two grants.
So Jody got the grant submitted for, that was the county recreation grant, right?
Submitted the papers for the county recreation grant,
Thank you so much.
and it goes in front of the county commissioners later this month. It looks like it was upped a little bit because they were saying we were eligible for 4,000. So I'll take whatever they can get us.
Yeah.
And then the 2025 Utah Outdoor Grant, with the mayor's permission, I'll go ahead and remove that from future agendas because we weren't awarded that this week.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. And thanks for the county. All right. Thanks, Ted. Oh, well, no, stay there. Okay. Public Works and Fire.
Public Works is a couple quick updates. Maple Canyon Well, they've got all the work done. The startup was either happening this afternoon or tomorrow morning, and I didn't hear anything this afternoon. So I'm guessing tomorrow morning. They're going to start the well up, make sure everything runs okay. Second time starting it up, and hopefully it runs okay this time. Because I've told our construction crew maybe mid next week we'd be ready to get them on board, and they've got about 2 weeks up on our well project to finish it up. The fuel tank has been set and hooked to the generator, so all the fuel lines are in place, and they've got all the electrical done they can do up here. So once this gets tested, they have to do their startup, flush out their system, flush out their tank, fill the tank, take back T samples, test samples, run them to the state, get them tested. They come back all good, then they can turn it into the system, which is probably going to happen sometime next week. So we're getting close.
Nice.
And then from there, we're going to have to shut down our well because it'll take about 2 weeks for our group to finish up our well project.
And when will they shut that down?
I'm going to say sometime between mid next week and the first of the following
Okay.
week. And then it all depends on Maple Canyon startup. Because if that goes south, then it could be delayed again.
I have an easy question. If the power goes out, when will our generator pump water?
Generator doesn't
It's not quite ready yet, is it? Well, we need power. When will that do that? Is it anywhere near ready or?
It all goes as planned.
Oh, really? Boy, that's good. That's good though.
Ted, your mic died again.
No, hear me? Can't hear?
Oh,
Oh,
there you are now.
oh, sorry. I'll have to just talk. I have to talk really.
The other thing I was going to ask is, will our residents notice when we switch over, because we're putting the Broad Hollow well down for 2 weeks, will anybody notice a change in their
Oh,
pressure?
yeah, they'll
or
notice.
Any of those types of things that we
gonna be
should
a-
expect calls from?
It's gonna be a freshly pumped tank. So
It'll still taste
I'm
different.
hopeful that the the cloudiness will go away and everything else that we've dealt with when we pulled off of that one. I'm really hopeful that that's going to come back really nice.
In effect, it's the same water. Those are the same
Yeah.
water.
Right,
The issues we had before is that when the
right, right.
Oh, okay.
that's what's been fixed now. So all goes well with the test. It should be cleared up water. We shouldn't notice a difference. I think I'm still going to put out just a citywide information.
Can we have
On
a TED Talk
Facebook?
on it? Can we have a TED Talk? Okay.
With the next TED Talk project.
Maybe you can do a
Okay.
special appearance.
Yeah,
Talk.
just to post on social
You
media.
could
Oh,
do it.
Give it to Joe.
I think we'll
Little
just-
reel. A little
that
bit
well
of
will
them
come up.
talking.
If they notice a difference, that's why, but we're constantly checking water quality. So they'll be, hopefully the cloudiness has gone away with the well being now. Notice a difference.
Okay.
Cross our fingers we don't.
You said the generator will be hooked up maybe 3 weeks, the 2 weeks to get the electrical going at Broad Hollow and then the generator hooked up after that? What
It'll
you
be
said?
hooked up as part of the 2 weeks. So we got about
Oh, okay.
middle of next week before we can shut down our well. And then from there, it's going to take about 2 weeks to get all of our stuff done on our well.
Okay.
And hopefully we'll run a scheduled test
Hopefully.
like I do at home on
Hopefully.
the generator. You know what I mean?
So the nice thing about this is we're revamping our SCADA system. We can set up automatically to run once a month,
Love it.
the generator, which you should be doing with generators anyway.
Yeah, I do mine weekly, but okay.
Yeah. And you can do them weekly.
Okay.
In water, we usually do them once a month and then,
Okay.
because it's a little
Sounds-
more complex.
That's great.
How long you
Um,
been working for us?
What's
Because I'll
that?
tell you, we're making leaps forward. So
Gosh.
Yeah.
Different public work.
it is. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome. Yeah.
We
I
should
just-
give him more.
Well, when you were talking about
I need more.
financing,
Janet, did you hear that?
We should give him more money.
Well, when you were talking about financing, though, I was thinking that we used to have the mentality of kind of hoarding stuff and using old stuff and paying cash, and now we're, it's a whole different ballgame. So
And I think that in terms of the value of what we're getting for the taxpayers' money,
Leaps and bounds.
it's miles ahead.
Well, in my experience is we're probably going to have a little bit of a, it's a little bit of pain to get where we need to be, right? We might have to take a little bit out of savings to get all this stuff done that should have been done over the years.
Mhm.
It's playing catch up like we've talked about. But once we play this catch up, the system's going to run better. We're going to have better equipment. So hopefully the day-to-day costs go down.
well, and I just think about how many years we just didn't have money for roads. We just didn't. So where did all the money go? Because we just didn't
Oh,
have
we
any
didn't
money.
have it.
We just didn't have money for roads.
We just didn't have it because we didn't have the population base we have now. So as population base grew and our roads increased, we had quite a few, we doubled the roads just in the early 2000s. That was a lot of new infrastructure to keep up with. That's why we couldn't keep up with the old way we did snow plowing, which is nice that we figured it out.
Ted was Doge before Doge was cool.
Anyway, it's just
Yeah.
interesting the contrast. I was just thinking about that when we were talking about financing big
Yeah.
things.
All right.
Fire.
Yeah. Fine.
I think that's all in Public Works, if there's no questions. I don't know if you mentioned last time, the pavement project got pushed back to August. Contractor
yeah.
got behind schedule, but anyway, so we'll be here in August to do that. On the fire side, the wildland crew got called to California. They left today, so they're on their way to California.
Oh, that's
Put out
fine.
car fires.
Put out car fires. They're going to be one of the squad. They're going to be squirting the
Nice.
The water
Uh,
bottle.
The rioters?
yeah, the right.
Oh,
Yeah.
Might be squirting my dog.
Yeah, might be close to home for Brian.
Yeah. Tell her to look for the Woodland Hills truck. But anyway, no, they're. I don't know yet. They're. It's what they call prepositions. So they're going to get in place in case something happens. 'cause
wow.
There
there's-
was a big fire that started down there.
Bethany
And
Fire started
so-
today and.
What they do is they go to the border, and once they get to the border, they call the local jurisdiction, GAC they call it. It's the Great Basin area, but they'll call and
Huh.
they'll give them their assignment once they get there.
Oh.
So I won't know probably till tomorrow
Oh,
what their
that's-
assignment is. Yep. So this will be their fourth one this year. Actually, an hour after they left, I got a call from the dispatch agency that calls us to go on these calls. Asked if we had a crew for Brush 192 that could go. That's how busy there are this year.
Wow.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
Well,
One,
it's,
two,
Not
three,
great
four,
It's
for
a-
fires,
it's
good
a-
for making money off.
it's
I
of the fire
know,
department.
I
It-
know,
it's-
but it just makes me.
we're looking at a risky year.
It
Yeah.
is. It's going to be a risky year. So it's good to have these people available that can go. So
In the
it's
summer, I spend my time, like if I take a break, I actually walk outside because I'm so far north and I just look at the mountain,
Don't
make
smoke.
sure all is well.
Don't
I
play with-
do, when I go
don't
to
play
lunch
with
and stuff, I
matches.
always look at the mountain.
this is the 4th call they've been on and 4 calls I've had to turn down.
Wow.
Wow.
So I think it's going to line up to be a busy year. And so just on that, I was just updating my numbers today. For 2025, we are $98,000 in the black on our wildland.
Wow. Did you
So-
send
I know
three?
where we need to spend that. We need a truck.
What's that?
Did you send 4?
We sent 4.
Cool.
They asked for a minimum of 3. We sent 4. We've made $209,000 this year on fires, and we've spent 111.
Dang, that's good.
So
We need this because we need a new truck. They need a truck that they can take out that's reliable, and we need a reliable truck for the city.
We need roads too.
Yeah.
Roads to drive those trucks
But
on.
this one's paying for it.
But isn't that why we have interlocal agreements with other cities? Because then we can rely on them for
They're
trucks
too
too?
slow to get here.
There's a ton of fires all over the western United States, and I mean, I have a little app that tracks them, and they're just everywhere. And
just doesn't look cool if other agencies
we-
come fight your fires. We got to
Yeah.
look cool.
we just have to be ready for mostly for southern Utah.
So-
There's a lot of activity going to be happening.
The
down
thing
there.
that's made me feel better about all this and with the truck situation is Engine 191 is also a brush capable truck. It can go to brush fires as well. So we have got one of the best trucks in the valley for going on a wildfire. To be, in my opinion, it's set up better than most of the trucks around here for doing brush fires.
Yeah.
That was well thought out, and it gives us that capability.
But Jody, your misgivings are noted.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something to be mindful of.
Well, and just the program as a whole or the life of the program is $162,000 in the black. So,
Oh,
Yeah.
Good
I
to
mean,
know.
and I think when
so it's a good
Craig
program.
first started, I mean, I think that it was with an eye on revenue and sort of sustainability for the department as a whole. And I think it's working.
The
out
only
very
reason
well.
to do it, in my opinion, it's the only reason for us to do that is
Yeah.
to build revenue for the department and the city, of course, but we need to get it to where it can reliably build revenue.
And the bonus to it is when they're not on fires, they're here in our city doing
Doing
donation
good,
work, and
yes.
it doesn't cost the
Huge
city
benefit.
anything.
Doing good.
for
Yep.
us. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, thank
Thanks,
you.
Ted.
All right, Wayne, what do you got for us on code enforcement?
Just so you know, I'm not asleep at the wheel. We've, FYI, there's 4 people that we're working with in the city who have definitely got the cart before the horse in building accessory structures.
Oh, shoot.
Some of these are years old, but they're willing to work with us and cooperate and try and get them to conform. The other 2, same thing, they got started and didn't get permission, but they're working with us. So just to let you know that those matters are going forward, and we're meeting with them and talking to them about how to restructure things. And I'm sure there'll probably be some demolition along the way a little bit with some new construction to get these to conform. So
Well, thanks for your constructive approach there too. I think that that's a healthy way to do it. Good for us as a city.
Yeah.
Thanks, Wayne. Okay, reports. So we had our SESD board meeting today. I would say the one thing to report is that they are actively engaged in trying to, because I mean the energy market is a little bit volatile, and so they're just trying to take the steps that they can to keep it as flat as possible. And there's a lot of really talented people that are engaged in that effort. So for my part, I feel like it is in good hands. And I mean, you know, there are some circumstances that are beyond our control when it comes to energy, but I still regard SESD as a good partnership for us as a city. So
Are they revisiting nuclear power again now that things have changed?
well, so we were involved. There was that new scale
Yeah,
development,
yeah.
and we were, because we're affiliated with UAMPS, which is, I actually don't know how I would describe UAMPS, but it's kind of a
Conglomerate,
consortium,
yeah.
yeah, of different cities and
Independent power.
entities. Yeah, and they basically are involved in sort of the brokerage of buying power.
Mhm.
But anyway, UAMPS was involved in NewScale, and it just, I mean, the technology is, I think, really cool and has great potential, but they couldn't get enough buy-in. The expenses kept mounting, and so eventually they had to torpedo it as far as UAMPS is concerned. So SESD was, they got off-ramped on that project. So right now, we're looking to improve a relationship with Deseret Power, and that's where they're looking to, but that's more of a traditional power source. It's not the small nuclear, but I
With regards to
totally
the
believe that the small nuclear is cool.
And with regards to the nuclear, at the last legislative session, they actually voted to have a nuclear commission under the Department of Energy whose sole task is to study and see what's going to happen. And then the governor has been meeting with other entities to see what is it going to take to bring it to Utah. So probably the stuff before was just a little one step ahead, and it wasn't going to work because it just wasn't feasible at the time. And
Yeah,
so
transmission is a
now, yeah,
real,
so now that they have the commission, it gives them permission to then do all this other stuff, to lay some groundwork to see what the reality is.
and my son-in-law's a lineman, and so I am
Went
all
to his
about building
house.
out the transmission because that's job security for my daughter and her husband. So, but yeah, I mean, I really think, because like the data centers are a huge power consumer, and so there are big efforts that are being made and need to be made, and I think kind of escalating and accelerating the efforts. But as far as SESD being directly involved in small nuclear, that didn't work out,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
I just didn't know if they were looking at,
I
if
know.
anything, because they've cut regulation ties or red tape.
Yeah,
That-
which
that-
I think is a great development.
Yeah, so-
So,
Yeah, it'll come. At least the governor said it's coming. It's just making sure the order is correct, and this commission will be a huge asset going forward.
yeah, I hope so. And you've got a
think
lot of
UAMPS is
federal
on that.
layers
Included
too,
here,
regulatory wise, that
for the other one.
slow it down.
And somebody from UAMPS
You're
has a
loved.
seat on that
You're
commission.
hated,
Do
but
they?
you're
So
loved by
representing all the
more.
smaller power.
Is it Jackie Cruz? Is that?
I can't remember. I'm gonna have to look it up. It's been a while since I looked at it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't
Well,
know
that's
why
good.
anybody
I
would
think
hate
that
you.
that's the direction we need to be going. Okay, live from Budapest. Councilmember Hilliard.
Tell everybody what time it is there first.
It's 3:40 a.m. right now. So if I
Wow.
fall asleep, just somebody yell at me.
I've done that.
As for the transfer station, we in our last board meeting we talked about the different the budgetary needs. Went over and finalized the budget. I've gotten those numbers over to Chris, I believe now, so that we should be able to be good there. As for the residents for the transfer station, nothing new to update there. That's it for me.
Went there last
Thanks, Ben.
weekend and it was fantastic. It was such a nice process. I had some LED ballasts and they had a spot that they didn't have a spot specifically for that, but they had me put it in a spot and metal in a spot. I was impressed. It was good.
And they took a Vista couch for $10.
Oh, that one that I dropped off on your cul-de-sac?
Thank you, Mayor. It was kind of heavy.
Yeah, well, couch bed.
Thanks for admitting, because
Oh, I kind of forgot that you didn't know that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they do a great job there.
Yeah, it is. It's a great facility. Okay,
Yeah,
thanks,
it is.
Ben.
Love it. Yeah.
All right, Councilmember Hutchings.
Okay, so Mount Nebo met, actually had a public hearing, adopting the fiscal year financials. And they went through that budget, and the finance report for the last year. We've officially adopted the resolution for the groundwater database plan management program. Ted, I don't know if they've talked to you about getting data, because we're lacking in our data as far as reporting it to that. Yeah, monthly is what they're going for now. So, okay, good.
They're actually having a big meeting in this month.
Yep. It's a neat program. They actually have listed some other meetings that they're having with with water demands and infrastructure for water. And we got a update on the Great Salt Lake Commissioner's Office. They did some other, little business future meetings, that type of things. Chair and vice chair were elected. South Valley, they had also a public hearing on adoption of the groundwater plan as well. That's the only thing they did.
So they didn't adopt their budget, just the groundwater
They
plan?
just did the groundwater plan. So that's all I have to report.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Councilmember Kinnison.
I reported on last month's last council meeting, and this month's meeting's on 2 days from now on Thursday. So I have nothing to report.
Retirement. Talk about the retirement.
You're not running again.
No.
You're retiring.
What's her name from 911?
Oh, yeah, our city contributed to a cool blanket that they built for Noreen Stone, who retired from 911 dispatch. She's been there for 40 years? Yeah, she's just a great person. And the team down there made her a blanket. And one of the squares of that blanket is a shirt, Woodland Hills Fire, that Ted got delivered to them. And I think our logo is the biggest on the whole blanket. I love it. He has a picture of it. It's beautiful. But yeah, but Noreen.
And then they put a small one from the front logo as well.
Noreen is.
Every time she sees
going
it,
to-
she'll think of our sirens.
She's going to be missed. Right. They love that. Yeah. They love that they don't do it anymore.
That's
But
what I mean.
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, yeah. So we're gonna miss her, but they'll fill her office with somebody.
All right.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you. Councilmember Lunt.
I don't have any official committees, so there's nothing by my name. But I already talked about this before our meeting started, but I got to go. We've been working on this history project, and I just have to say that Glenn he really is professional. He is so good. And it's just phenomenal. So we got to see the snow section of the video, of the documentary, and it's so good. And the people that he has interviewed, and he just does little snippets from each person on certain topics, and they have a similar set of questions. So then but it's really good. And he has this section finished, and I was teary-eyed. It was so good. It was so cool. Like, it just turned out so much better than I could have imagined. So I'm really excited for that. And so we're incorporating that into Woodland Hills Days, and they went with the 50 years. So 1975 through 2025. Our city had different levels, and we have different anniversaries, but the 50 one is a big one. And so he did make a logo. And so and it's cool because when he's doing the snippets of people, he puts underneath what year they moved here. So you can know like how long, like they moved here in 1994 or whatever, as he's interviewing a lot of these old timers. It has underneath what year they moved here. So that's really cool. So then, and we'd already talked about it, but so we're planning to showcase the movie for after dinner, and after the band's done, and we'll we won't have them go long. The last couple years we've had the band go long. We'll have them wrap it up a little bit early, and then we'll show the movie,
Ooh,
the
that'll be
history
fun.
movie
That'll be fun.
that night. And we're going to kind of do it like a double feature. And the committee was talking about doing, the Woodland Hills Committee was talking about doing either a movie about something in the history of the area, like Footloose, or doing movies that were from 1975, like Escape to Witch Mountain or Apple Dumpling Gang, like showing a movie that was from
Yeah.
that time.
Jaws. Inspector Jaws is 1960.
Oh, yeah.
No, Apple Dumpling Gang was partially filmed in American Fork.
Oh.
I used to own the ranch. that it was filmed
Interesting.
on.
So those are some ideas they're tossing out. And then the other thing that I just love that we're going to do, and it just is tying into kind of the whole history thing, but super simple, but we're going to have a table. I'll probably be at it, and it's going to be like a check-in table where you can get the video, either download the QR code and download it, or we'll have some physical copies. But then also we're going to hand out stickers, and people will put their name and the year they moved here. So that as you're walking around the city celebration, you can see how long they've lived in Woodland Hills. And I just think it'll be really cool. It's just such a simple thing. It won't cost the city anything. Like I'll
Love
even
it.
buy the stickers myself. I
Love
don't
it.
care, but
Love it.
it'll be really cool.
Love this.
Yeah, that's a great.
So, and then during the breakfast, the fireman's breakfast, we want to have a big TV with a screen and just have the movie on loop. It'll be a little bit different because people will be talking and coming and going, but it'd just be nice to, under the pavilion, to kind of have the movie going while everyone's visiting and people can stop and watch it.
Yeah, for those who may not have stayed late at the night.
Because we get two
before.
different
Right.
crowds. Lots of times we get a different crowd at the night than we do during the day.
Yeah,
So,
the older people probably won't come at night, but they will come for the breakfast.
but anyway, it's going to be cool.
Sounds amazing.
So I'm really excited.
I think
It's turning out way better than I
We
could
need
have
to,
imagined.
we need to recognize those people that work on it at the event somehow.
Yeah, Wendy, Wendy and Lori and Dennis and Glenn, and they just,
Yeah, they deserve some recognition
good.
somehow.
they got footage of when it snowed and the plows, so that like going down the road in the night in the dark with all the snow on the road, like it's so cool. Like it's just really real, and they have all these pictures of they have pictures, Lori, of, the snow taller than Lori, in her driveway, and it's awesome. So anyway.
Yeah, that's going to be great. Thank you.
Love it.
Hmm?
Job, man.
I don't know if that is conducive to a thumb drive, but I think we need to make arrangements to sell those after the fact here at the city, because I'm sure word will spread and everybody doesn't go to
Yeah.
Woodland Hills Day, but to make them available here for a small cost, I think would be a good thing.
Yeah, the goal was I would like to get one into every resident's hands if possible. The other thing is and I think I forgot, but just remember that they just finished the interviews for the fire section. And they were really emotional about it. Anyway, and so we had a discussion, and what we think is that they're going to gather that, and then on the 10-year anniversary of the fire, do another one. Glenn he talked about doing one for the 10-year anniversary of the fire.
28, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be good.
So, but they said they just finished the interviews on the fire section, and they said it was just so powerful, and there was so much, and that they said it was so good, and they're talking about just doing one for the fire too later.
That book.
Great.
Yeah, we do.
We need that book.
We do
need to
need
get
that
some
book.
Well,
publish that book.
Diana has raised her hand.
Oh, yeah.
I love this project, having lived here but not on the mountain since 91. I love it. And as you're talking about the fire, we had 2 grandbabies born while we were evacuated. But because we have a lot of children, most we don't know. A lot of them live nearby. And everybody was on either mandatory vaccine or we were on, what was it called? Watch or whatever, they were ready to evacuate. 4 of our kids and their families, and 2 of them were ready to deliver. And everyone except one went to the one house who was in labor at home for a home delivery. Like, And that baby was born, and her name is Emberly. Because we were covered in embers. And I just think it's so impactful to our family. The little boy was born the day we got to go home. They did not name him Asher like we thought he should be named, but he's still darling and he's feelings. But thanks for doing this project, Janet.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It
It's
is.
been fun.
Great
Thanks for the
project.
comment, Diana.
Mhm.
Thank you.
All right. Carrie?
South Valley Animal Shelter, we met, they approved the budget. We went over the stats, and for the month of May, Woodland House is 0 on every stat that they track. We didn't have any animals picked up, any animals called in, any animals dropped off. So we were 0 on everything, but our budget did increase, and I sent that to Chris a while back, Chris and the mayor a while back to include it in the budget, but they're looking at possibly needing to expand sometime in the future. So whether they're going to add on to their existing shelter or if they're going to need to build a bigger one someplace else.
So has the spike from all the COVID pets dipped, or is it still?
It's starting to. The cats are still an issue, but the dogs are leveling off. The cats, the hard part with the cats is that there's a lot of feral cats. And so a lot of people will just go and drop them off by the lake because they think, oh, they'll just get food and water because they're at the lake. But there's a lot of disease that's getting spread, like, not pun, but wildfire, right? Wildfire. It's just the disease that's happening is really not a good thing for public health. So they're trying to figure out how to balance that in taking care of the animals that are brought in, but not spreading disease.
Right. Not an easy thing, I'm sure. Okay, thank you. All right, circling back, Chris, you got all those money answers for us? Or are you asleep?
He ran
No,
away.
no. I'm here. Sorry, I just couldn't get the mute button off. Okay, I have some thoughts and some suggestions and some numbers here. So first, I just kind of compared any additional costs this year versus last year. That might be an increase in our budget for fiscal 26 versus fiscal 25. One is we increased the attorney fees by $25,000. So we put 100,000 in there instead of 75. We did add that a little bit for the council travel to get reimbursed for council when you guys go to the St. George school. We also have a $4,000 increase in the police services. The roads, we have about 237,000 extra in there, not extra, but additional expenses that are going to be moved this year. But that 237 represents, Ted, what you had said, $565,000 is roughly what the pavement improvement plan is going to cost next year versus the money we have in the budget. So there's roughly 240,000 there. Road salt, we increased this upcoming year by $10,000. We do have the chipper in there. I don't remember that we've really ever paid much for the chipper, but we have 10,000 there. And then we have the transfers of $31,000. So just quick and dirty, if we take all those numbers, and if we're able to reduce our budget down for next year, that'd be $324,000. That still leaves us short $85,000. So we'd still need to take $85,000 out of the budget. However, I did go in and see what would our tax rate have to be so we don't take anything out of savings. And so we need to keep the city portion level and raise the tax rate roughly 6.5%. Once again, these are quick numbers. These are round numbers. Don't write me emails and ask me for specifics, but this is just today
Now,
talking.
we're all 15%, right? About,
That would be 14.5 roughly. Yep.
want to do that?
Yeah, and I don't want to do that, but I was curious. I was hoping that wasn't too much extra work for you. I just wanted to know. And I
No,
think
that's
that
good
would
exercise.
be good for the truth in taxation
Yep.
to explain to the citizens. I think that number is an important number to have.
Yeah.
And then to show them with the 2.5 that yes, that is rough, but even with the 2.5, this is how much we'll have to take out of savings. Like, I think they need to know that too. I think they need to have, or, some hard, I don't know. I do well with show me the numbers.
Yep.
I think that's important that we show them that when we have to do that truth in taxation. They need to see it.
And Chris, I think it's important to make sure that we're clarifying that it's not just 2.5, it's last year's rate plus 2.5,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Right.
do we just want to keep it at, I mean, do we want this to be set at 9%?
I thought you said it was 9.8.
9.8 to be exact, it's 9.87.
That we would do last year's rate plus a 2.5 increase.
Chris, do we have any numbers in there for new council room microphones?
We do under.
Do that.
some
Let's
city
do that.
affairs. I'm grateful you're able to
Still-
hear what Brian and I hear often, or not here.
Need to mic the whole room, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a need.
Silly.
sure.
You can just think, before COVID, we didn't even have mics. We didn't even have a screen. We just
didn't
talked
record
here.
anything.
We didn't, well, we recorded it on the little recorder.
Oh,
but we
that's
didn't-
right.
We didn't talk and people couldn't see us. So it is a big step up, but now that I've been using them a while, I think it's time that we keep a depreciation fund so that you can, upgrade when you need to.
And they really get used a lot with not just
They
us,
do.
but all the different committees. There's
Mic
a
the
lot of
whole
use to
room.
them, yeah.
Quit not fooling around. It's worth it.
That's a good idea.
I
Well,
like.
and it's
I
not
think
that
that's great.
crazy. It'd
No.
be,
Not with the same people we're getting cameras from because we won't see it for.
well, not with,
Hey, we got that done. I'd just like to say, and
it's silly. Those guys should be able to talk back
Jody's
there.
credit.
Yes, to Jody's credit.
All right, well, so, I mean, I don't know, do we want to continue discussing, or are we comfortable with this and ready to move forward with the proposed tax rate?
So what would be the actual rate? We're showing percentage, but what is the rate that we're looking at?
If you're gonna go the 2.5%, or
the-
this column right here,
Uh-huh.
that would be 3404.
003400403.
Yeah,
Oh,
well,
four.
we'll just take it out 4 places. So that would get us, and I'll just, we pop back over to this other screen here.
What we say?
003404.
4, yeah. So it gets 1 million in round numbers, 1,114,400-ish. In a perfect world, if everybody paid and nobody built and nobody's property values went up or down.
Okay. Well, unless there's need for further discussion,
Just to clarify, so if anyone comes back to listen to this, the proposed property tax rate that we're going to give is 0.003404, which is this current city rate plus a 2.5% increase.
Yes, no, that's if you guys go that route, you don't want to give yourselves any wiggle room. If you wanted to take it up to the 5%, and then in the truth and taxation hearing in August, you can always go down, but remember, we can't go up.
and that's
yeah.
fair. I mean, while it's, I mean, it just gives us,
some siding.
so I mean, help me understand, so that's what's advertised though, right? I mean, is that what then?
Yep, they would get the 5%, which ends up being 15.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I think that we could, well, I mean, it's the council's decision, but for my recommendation, I would say we keep it at that 003404.
Yeah.
I think the 2.5 probably makes a lot of sense.
So then in your motion, in a couple, it'll be the
Jody.
3404.
Are you okay with that?
You've heard us jibber jabber now. Okay.
You can explain the reasoning behind it much better than if you went with the other already knowing you were going to reduce it. I mean, this is where you contemplated, you looked at all the the options, and really this is the best. And I think you can back that up
Yeah.
well in a hearing.
And I think we should, it would be nice, Chris, to have this table that you've done for the truth in taxation, and we're talking about it.
Yeah, I
Okay,
think,
go ahead.
just to say, lots of good data for them to look
Uh-huh.
at.
With the percentage, like you have city level plus 2%, which total equals 10%, and then the same others, because if when you say city level plus 13%, it's not, it's plus 5% equals 13%.
Yeah.
Or 3%, I mean.
I would delete the column state proposed estimate because people will see that and say, oh, why don't you do what the state tells you to? I don't like that column, just in
See
that.
that
meeting.
on their taxes anyway, Karen?
Yeah, that's what they'll get on the
All
letter.
right, all right.
I
Never
think
mind.
one of the best things we could probably do is for the truth in taxation, could we get, and I know this will be a decent amount of work, but could we get from Ted and you, Chris, what does the proposal look like for roads and water infrastructure work going out into the future if we look at the state proposed estimate, and what does that time frame look like, and what is the contribution requirements from savings, and what would the contribution requirement look like going forward potentially with tax rates to be able to meet that goal for that infrastructure improvement? Also, then what would that time frame look like from that 2.5 percentage? And that way, when we're going into the truth in taxation, we have the two proposals to which we can pitch to our residents. And that way they kind of are able to make a decision instead of it looking like we're just showing up and saying, this is what we're doing and being done, right? Give them kind of the view and the picture of what we went through from a discussion standpoint today and in the past few meetings.
That's a great idea.
Ted, would you have time to, maybe we could meet next week and throw some of these numbers together and, get a plan or a spreadsheet or something together?
Yeah, I'd have time, Chris.
Okay.
Just give me
Okay.
And I think too, adding in that narrative of this is to help us with just inflation. I mean, what Brian brought up just at the beginning, that's part of why the 2.5, I mean, Janet proposed that, but
Well,
To
let me ask you
add-
this.
because we don't get to add it in.
Are you guys okay cutting things back like the attorney fees from 100,000 to 75,000? Because that's gonna, if we don't make some of these cuts, then we're gonna be taking, a good chunk out of savings still. This is such an unknown with what's going on there, but we also have, the police is set at that $4,000 additional to cancel travel. I mean, you guys are covering out of your own pocket to drive to St. George. You have been for years, and that's just not, personally, I don't think that's fair. The roads we can work on, the salt, we just never know. The chipper days, it seems like we've been getting that for free for many years. And then the transfers, I would recommend we do away with all these transfers, except go back to the original capital projects account, and we use that for savings, roads, whatever else we might need, but that's the OG original one we had here, we haven't used for years, and we do with all the rest of them down below. That'll be something that we can talk about and you guys can decide on next council meeting.
Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you. We say that one more time.
So get rid of all these transfers. We're only doing $31,000 this year. Just completely get rid of it. Roll this money, this 31,000 back into the budget, which requires 31,000 less coming out of savings. And then just doing away with fire, EMS, public works, roads, parks, trails, rec, and the ARPA's gone now anyways. And only using the capital projects transfer. Just something to think about.
It's hard to visualize just saying it like that without.
So is that something that we would be voting on tonight then? Is that part of,
The rate.
Just
Just
the
the
No.
rate.
Right, then
Just the
I know
rate
the
tonight.
rate is tonight, but so what you're proposing, Chris, is this something that is separate from the rate, or I guess I'm not, I might not be contextualizing this.
No, that's
right.
fine. My reason of bringing it up is if you guys had the appetite to do that, then I would go ahead before the next meeting and zero these out. These $31,000, put it back up here and just close all these transfer accounts out. And these
I think-
transfer accounts are only on our books, we don't have bank
Say-
accounts, please.
But it doesn't impact the rate that is being
Right.
proposed, right? This is
Just-
just,
It's just we're able to show that at the rate that you're proposing, that we would be taking less money out of savings if we're
Correct.
taking this money, not putting it into savings. You know what I
Gotcha.
mean?
Correct.
So-
okay, and Wayne,
I'm
Yeah, to Ben's suggestion, you're going to be presenting to people who sometimes can't even balance their checkbook. And when you start throwing figures around and percentages and tax rates, and you're going to lose them. So I think we really need to be careful as to how that presentation is made. And when you start saying this or that, it's going to, I'm afraid it's going to get muddled in the.
and I would tend to agree that holding it out as like two equally viable options could make it more problematic than it needs to be. I think that it should be more of a, this is what we recommend, and these are the reasons we recommend it. I don't know if that is what you're getting at.
More or less, yeah. So I think, again, even here tonight.
I can't hear Wayne.
Oh, wait, hold on, Wayne, hold that thought. We're gonna get you a mic.
Oh, is that working?
We definitely need to put the mics in the budget.
We can wait till next budget year.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, the simpler you can make this presentation, the better off it's going to be. I mean, citizens expect you all to make a proposal to them. And if they're looking at two different proposals, and it's maybe one's what you propose and the other one is another idea, I think that's going to get confusing to them. I
The
think
default would be the cheaper one, I
more
think.
detail you can put into what you're proposing, I think it would be better served.
So,
I think that's a good point.
so Chris, you're going to refine it based on what you just told us. And with this rate, and then send that back to us before our next meeting, and that's where we actually vote on it? Or are we just voting on the tentative budget is our next meeting? Tonight's the vote on the rate, and next time is the vote on the tentative budget.
Yeah, you guys already voted on the tentative budget. I don't believe we need another vote on the fiscal year 2026 until August, which I believe we have to do the truth and taxation one meeting, and we have to wait to do the budget vote in another meeting. I'm checking on that.
Okay.
But for sure, next time will be the fiscal year 2025 budget, just wrapping up this current year's.
All right. Well, I think that I heard some maybe grumbling back there. I don't know, but was that? Yeah, you shouldn't steer the mic away from your mouth when you're making your. All right, well then, why don't we take a quick break? I want
So-
Ben to be able to get back to
So
sleep.
number 4, we're not going to discuss tonight, just that will be next time?
Oh,
Are we tabling that one?
okay. Discussion of 2026 and 2025 amended fiscal. Are
Yeah,
we voting on
2025
the?
is amended fiscal year budget, the current one, to amend, to reconcile the books at the end.
Right, so I know
Yes.
we're doing a budget amendment, right, Chris?
On the next council meeting, not this time.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
So is there anything that we need to be mindful of in that regard, just other than it's coming? Amending the budget.
I think Ted's done really good at spending money this year, so we're doing good.
Yeah, he's a pro.
Yep, he's got a
We have-
master's degree in it.
It's for April.
Oh, that's true. Okay, thank you. All right, so, but items 3 and 4, we're good on, right?
Yep.
Okay, so 5. Thanks, Jody.
I didn't have anything more to add than what we've talked about with April financials, unless you guys had any specific questions.
Okay.
No, I'm
There's
good.
just a lot of numbers going on this month,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Heads are spinning. All right. As I was saying, I want Ben to get some rest. So let's reconvene at 8:20 and we'll start council meeting.